Not the Footy Show.
I wouldn't think he'd be reading too much into that. Brad tried to throw some similar chat at me a couple of years back when I first came into Origin. It's just all part of the games. It honestly is. Reece Walsh is a fantastic player. He needs to make sure that he has full belief in himself and his teammates have full belief in him. And that's all that matters.
Be the ball.
G'day everybody, welcome to episode 239 of Not The Footy Show, and there's three of us, two very happy New South Welshmen and a couple of weeks suffering Queenslander in MATTY, Duncan, Robb Cox, myself, Warrick Nicolson. Gents, how are we on this, unfortunately for us Sydney siders, COVID Friday?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. I'm sorry, Matty. I knew that was going to happen.
Good start.
I gave it the pause and then bang, straight on top of him. I'm pretty good, mate. I'm not locked down yet, so I'm okay. It's a little bit cold out here, hence the jacket. But very much looking forward to this weekend, even though I did get an email from the NRL saying, due to COVID, we've cancelled your trip to.
You've been dropped, Cocksmith.
I've been dropped like a hot spud, mate. So
too much experience, mate. They didn't need that experience up there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Speaking of experience, Matty, Reece Walsh at fullback. What's going on?
No, I like it. No, I really do. I think in considering the circumstances, I don't mind the play. I think that undercooked 7 games. Look, he's very inexperienced. There's no doubting that, and it's a game too with the couple that we can draw parallels, and we're going back 20, 30 years. But
yep. I
think Tuck played after 9 games or 10 games, and I think the one that always springs to mind, and it was a dead rubber, was Willie Kahn. Debuted after 5 games for the Broncos at the end of the 1990 series, which Queensland went on to win.
That was 91, just to be sure.
No.
Oh, you mean the game? You mean the game? Okay.
Game 3, 1990, they won. I think you'll find if you want to go to your stats, there wasn't the action.
I thought you were claiming series victory. That's my bad.
No, mate, no. Come in and we won the game, is what I was saying. And then went on to win the next, Willie on the wing.
Yes, and one W. Lewis playing his last series, which kind of helped. Yep. Cocksmith, Walsh, look, Gus Gould's been extremely vocal about the fact that it's, what's the word? Irresponsible, ridiculous, lots of words that have us in it, which makes sense coming from Gus. But I hear where he's coming from, but as Matty says, what other choice do they have?
I don't think they had any other choice, mate. And I can see why Gus doesn't really want him to play, because he's probably looking after his Warriors player more than worried about the young guy going into Queensland. That's the only skin he'd have in this game, I would have thought. But yeah, look, he's good. Reece Walsh is good.
Just on that, would Gus be as vocal if he wasn't a Warrior? If he was a Bronco, I don't think Gus.
He wouldn't.
There's much at all.
No, that's why I say,
he's fairly transparent, Gus, in regards to that. The moment that he signed with the Warriors as a consultant, he has been pro-Warriors.
Yeah. No hiding that, but I'm just.
But I think sometimes Gus finds it a little hard, as everyone does, to take one hat off and put another one on, between conversations. So, he would probably be looking at it, in his fair income department as trying to look after a young guy that's only, 18 years old, coming in,
almost 19,
playing in a prime position in a Queensland team that's on the back foot at the moment. So I can see his point, but when is the right time? Well, I guess when there's nobody else to pick, that's the right time. They really don't have anyone else. AJ Brimson is busted at the moment, even though he shouldn't
have played game 1. He was clearly not right.
Yeah. So look, I think as long as his head's in the right place, Reece Walsh, even if they get pumped again, and I don't think they will get pumped the way they were in Townsville, but even if they lose, he'll learn something from this. This will be a good experience to be around, the best players in Queensland at the moment, and I think it's a good move. What else are you going to do? I mean, are you going to? Look, Queensland can't even get 2 centres to play in the centres, so they can't remanufacture somebody to put them at fullback. And Valentine Holmes is never the answer.
Well, that's the interesting part. Yeah, I know. But
I've
Paul
said it
Green
before, I'll
agrees
say
with
it
you.
again. He has no business being a fullback. At one stage, he was possibly the best winger in the world. I don't think he so much is anymore, but not a fullback. Valentine, not a fullback.
But what's Paul Green? He's got to hate Paul Green, doesn't he? Val Holmes.
Yeah.
Because he signed with the Cowboys to play fullback. Lasted about 3 games there, and then Paul Green said, "Nah, bring in Drinkwater. He can play fullback."
Yeah, but
Val Holmes has got to be sitting in the training going, "Yeah, whatever."
But they all do this. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Matty Duncan will agree. They all do this. They all claim to be fullbacks. Every one of them. If you're a winger, you're a fullback. You know why?
Yeah,
because
I was a winger, and I said I was a fullback. Like no winger ever says they're a winger.
They're biding their time on the wing till they get back to fullback. That's what wingers do. But he is not a fullback, and the reason why they do it these days is player managers knows that a fullback is worth somewhere between 450 and 700 or 800. A winger's worth 200 to 300, 400 maybe. You know, so yeah, that's why he's a fullback.
Just my views on Walsh. He's going to get bashed. New South Wales are going to absolutely annihilate him on kick returns, and this is where the job for Val Holmes and Cole Felt is so important, because something that RTS is doing in the Warriors is he's protecting him, and they had Marlowe there before, and they generally like to pick a big guy on the wing to try and protect him there. He's not going to get that protection in Origin. The game is so fast that the abilities for the wingers to get back all the time is going to be a lot harder, and that's one of the beauties, I guess, when it gets to an Origin stage where you've got a Tedesco or whatever, is that he eats that kind of physicality up. Welsh isn't going to be able to hide here. I'm not saying he's going to try, but that option is just not there for him in this kind of match. And that is the bit that worries me, because he's an 18-year-old, but is it lithe the right word? He's not physically developed, which you don't expect sometimes. Sometimes as 18-year-olds, I mean, Bradman Best is an example, but his body's failing him, and he was only sort of 19 when he came in. I just worry about that part of it and I think that's the reason that the Warriors are so hesitant. You don't want to have this prize signing hurt himself or get bashed out of the game when I don't think he's ready. Ponga not being fit.
There were similar concerns, and I know he had more first grade experience, but there were similar concerns around Billy Slater at Origin level with his size. And I know they're probably a bit of a different build, Reece and Billy, but we have seen, he doesn't have the Origin build type of.
Didn't Slater come in on the wing when he first came in?
He did, but there was still that conversation that he's too light for Origin as not. And I see where you're coming from with that fullback position is a different beast again. But there was been conversations around he doesn't have the build for Origin. It was said for Bowen, who didn't have a great Origin career apart from one intercept, and going back, and this is when we played a different game virtually. Alan Langer, they said, his body's not made for Origin. He's going to get bashed playing halfback at the Origin level. So, and we probably can find some examples of players who did come in and did get bashed and didn't make it. So, I think it's a great storyline heading into game 2. Is he the next big thing, or does he end up on the scrap heap? That's footy.
That's the interesting one, because there's no guarantee he plays game 3 at all. If Ponga's fit, and there's only a shorter distance between game 2 and game 3, though. There's only, I think they have one round and then they go straight back into camp. The concern I've got is more so his ability to have energy in attack. If I'm a Queenslander, that's my concern. Just the physicality of having to do the hard work from your own end. His run meters, and if you want to look at stats, which you guys know I'm not a huge fan of telling how great a player is, but his stats, they look like he's involved a lot. One of the big things that I noticed that he does for the Warriors is he likes sweeping around the back off a couple of passes. That's where he seems to want to get involved. He plays, in some respects, similar to that Slater option that played at Melbourne, where he first sort of started out playing as that extra 5'8". So my worry for him is he going to have the energy to do that if he having to do all the hard work coming back on the kick returns? Because I don't think you're going to see New South Wales kick a heck of a lot away from him, as much as, because Val Holmes is pretty decent, I think, on kick returns. Cole Felt, I think defensively is average, but he's not too bad in the kick returns. Can drop a ball though, I will say. But I think if you're Nathan Cleary, if you're Jerome Luai, you are kicking the ball to Reece Walsh early and often, and you're just saying, "Come and get bashed, son."
It's mad not for New South Wales to that's what you got to do for a rookie. And I think over the time, sometimes there's been teams not do it enough, not pepper those rookies enough, because it'll come. Like it's the biggest stage, and you've got to see if you can break them. And that's what rugby league's about, and that's what State of Origin is.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, the State of Origin is the biggest test there is, without calling it a test match. It is the biggest test there is, and New South Wales are already testing Reece Walsh. When Fitler came out last night and had a little mind game with him about taking dives, and in one way I agree. Taking dives isn't a good look, but a lot of them are doing it now. I don't think Reece Walsh is Robinson Crusoe. And we all know that footy players will take as many advantages as they can, and if the referee keeps falling for it, well,
21 games in a row, Gerard Sutton.
Gentleman's agreement means nothing.
What was did you guys see the stat that Gus tweeted last night? Let me just find it. There was a bit courtesy of David Middleton, and he basically has declared that Gerard Sutton at Lang Park is the 19th or 18th player for the Queenslanders. Let me just find it. It's pretty good. Just talk amongst yourself for a couple of seconds later.
Well, we had a conversation off the pod the other day, Warwick, as you know, and I don't mind Gerard Sutton as a referee. I've got a bit of an issue with the Sutton triplets as they were. Seemed to be a little protection racket going on there, for want of a better term. But I wouldn't have thought that Chechen or Grant Atkins is far behind, if they are behind at all. Yet Gerard just seems to be the one they just wheel out. What do you think about that, Matt?
I don't like to get too caught up in. I think Chechen's probably the best referee for mine. They're the games when I watch a game. He's probably the one I think I notice the least, which is probably the biggest tick for a good ref. But as far as I kind of put them all in the same basket.
Here's the stat, boys. I found it. Queensland flying record at Suncorp Stadium under referee Gerry Sutton. 8 games, 7 wins, 1 loss. Queensland have won the penalties 55-36, courtesy of David Middleton.
What's the stats at Suncorp, like, full stop, without Sutton? Like, would it be much different?
That's a good question. Question
I
without notice. Always a killer.
Get Middleton on the phone, mate.
Yeah, I've got his number. I think we'll ring him.
I think the key point is Suncorp more than Sutton. So.
Well, that was our point after the game review last week. I don't know if you heard us, Matty, but Fitler in the press conference was like, "Yeah, we won. I'm happy with that, but we haven't won a thing at Suncorp in 3 years." He was pretty adamant about the fact that that's the challenge. And one of the things that's interesting about the current situation, and we'll get your view on this in a sec, Matt, but having to play Townsville then Brisbane back to back to open the series, and now with the COVID lockdown with the borders, New South Wales are going to be playing, will potentially win a series and win both games of the opening series in front of about 10 New South Wales fans. I mean, if you want to talk about overcoming the odds, so to speak, it'd be a fair effort. What was your view, Matty, on the fact that Townsville got game 1? And do you believe our little conspiracy theory down here in New South Wales, which is there is just no way, no how the QRL would ever have let that happen if the shoe was on the other foot, having the first 2 games in New South Wales?
To be honest, what was the other option? Were we going to Canberra, or what was the...
Newcastle was the other one that was moved.
Newcastle or Canberra were the 2 that were brought up.
Yep. No, look, it is what it is. Whose game would it have been in, like,
it was Queensland's.
Queensland.
It was Queensland year this year to have 2 games.
Yeah.
But, obviously that was always going to be difficult given that they had the middle game to be fair one way or the other. So,
Can you answer the question though, Matty, or are you just going to sit on the fence there? I mean, I'm being honest. Like, I just don't see there's any way the QRL would ever have allowed that. Mitigating circumstances, even in part of it. I just don't think they ever would have agreed to having 2 in New South Wales in a row.
Probably not, but as we know, Origin means more to us than it does to New South Wales.
We can't live without Queensland in the Origin arena. That's so correct. Boys, the selections for Queensland, there's been changes. 5 in, 5 out, or 6, or, with the 18th, 19th man thing, which just quickly on that, the whole stay in camp for the whole week and give them jerseys and then not play. Is it a bit of overkill? Because back in the day, if you made the camp, you just made the camp, and that was part of it, and you went back to your club team on the weekend.
I think Green really erred the whole, whose decision it was in the end. I think they made a massive blue, was naming Reed Marnie and then sending him back to Parramatta, and then getting hurt. It's just been a disaster. It looks like they weren't going to go down that route anyway, but yeah. I was pumped of the one. Reed and Harry, I thought that was a real key factor to Queensland, and it doesn't look like they're going down that avenue. And then they sent Reed Marnie back to Para. He got hurt, and then Harry got hurt, and now we've got Andrew McCullough as our hooker. So, yeah, that's where
Why did Queensland do that when New South Wales had openly said that Coruscant was not going back to play for?
It made no sense to me at all. It just seemed very bizarre, and I thought Reed Marnie was a great selection and deserved to be in the 17. So
especially with Harry Grant not playing football for a month.
Yeah, it made little sense, particularly with the formation they ended up with on the bench. I think that was a real tactical error.
I think Reed Marnie's was up until that injury was playing better football than Harry Grant. Leading into that anyway, and I think he would have been more dangerous in that game than Harry Grant, to be honest.
But I think the other factor is you make Harry Grant that much more dangerous by not having to start a game and make those tackles. That impact he can bring off the bench by not having to do that work. And they really missed that when the game really started to spiral out of their control in game one.
Yeah.
Well, that was the bench. We worried about the bench going in as much as we cared about Queensland, but we looked at the bench and went, there's nothing there that gives us any real concerns. If the game is flowing in our direction, they're not going to send anyone on that's going to change it back. You get Papali back.
It was an old school bench picked to cover injury and nothing else, not to win a game. It was there to, you can play this position if he gets hurt, and he's probably got an injury cloud, so we'll name 4 players that can cover positions.
It was Fodawaker, Jaden Sewer, who wasn't even playing in first grade for the Bunnies. He got picked simply because he was there last year. Joel Fingowie, don't start me. I just don't understand how he was in the side. And then Brimson on one leg. It did my head in. And going into that, and I watched that game pretty closely a second time. And it felt like it's a New South Wales match, but it's not out of Queensland's reach with sort of 25 to go. It's not. The game's not.
No.
It's not.
No, I totally agree. You look at the scoreline and you no way think that New South Wales were always on top, but we've seen Queensland teams in that position a lot of times, and Harry Grant or someone off the bench can turn those.
But you've changed the bench now, and now you've got it feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of thing. I don't understand David Fifita on the bench. What's doing there, Matty?
I kind of do with Fifita's mindset. Like I think they get to Fifita and say, "Look, you're coming off the bench. You've just got to go." He seems to coast these days, even for the Titans. And in game one, I think he thinks, "I've got to get through 80 minutes of football. I don't want to get." He's just can be a bit of a passenger. He can, and then he'll come. I think if you tell him you're off the bench, you're getting X amount of minutes. You've got to go hard. I don't mind it as seeing what we've seen in game one and that lack of impact. I think bringing him off the bench as an impact player is worth a punt in the situation.
Rob?
I was just thinking, isn't it different these days what footy players are like? You've got to manage their personality more so than their playing style, which is, I guess that's just what millennials and Generation Zs or whatever they are now are like. Look, I like the idea of Fifita emptying the tank. I like the idea of saying to him, listen, mate, you're going to have one stint here, and it's going to go for the last 15 of the first half and the first 10 of the second half. And you got to rip and tear and empty that tank. You're not going to be put on after that unless there's an injury of major concern. So you go out there and give us your best 25 you've done for your career. Maybe that'll inspire him. You know, I'm not sure. I don't know him. But I don't mind that. I really don't mind having an impact player like he is, although he's generally an 80-minute player that goes in and out of the game a little. Just saying to him, let's concentrate all your efforts on this 25 minutes and give us your best.
I actually don't think he was the worst second rower for Queensland in game one. Felice
Name
Kafusi
him.
had an absolutely horrible match. He got exposed about 5 times in defence. He really did. And I know he's an incumbent Australian and he's been playing for Queensland, but he needs to bounce. He had a good year for the Storm this year. He's played quite well. But in game one, and I watched this closely, my flatmate was watching as well, and we just both identified, we just said, he's had a shocker. My thought process...
Side him in defence was Felice.
He was defending left edge, so that would have been a right edge. Sorry, so it would have been who's the left edge? It was Luai was the one that was toying with him.
So Munster usually defends on the left, doesn't he?
Wasn't Munster? I wasn't sure. I can't. I'd have to go back, but
I think he does.
He defended with someone that wasn't trusting his inside man. I thought.
Yeah, check the tape though. But you can, if you want to have a look on the number of occasions he just gets exposed watching them go by. Which is a big concern. And I think Tommy as well gave him some fits because he was everywhere on the field. I'd love to have just
Tommy was on our right,
checked.
so Matty's gone.
Matty's back. Didn't like the Chrissy pledge.
A quick question. I've had a discussion with a few people. Centre wise, we've ended up with what we've got. There's limit. I'm kind of in the basket. Well, there's limited options. You've got to play Capewell. If it's not Capewell, it's essentially Tom Opacek, who I love. Tom, he come from Redcliffe. He's come from Western. He lived there. No bigger fan club than Tom.
It's
Opacek.
not happening.
But that's. Is there another? There was really no other option, is there?
What I mean, I'm going off the reservation a little bit here, but why are Brisbane and Queensland so obsessed with playing Xavier Coates on the wing, or not on the wing this game, and then never actually give him the ball and never kick to him? Why is he not being pushed back into centres and actually he might actually see some ball? It is the biggest waste of a talent I've seen for a while. I don't understand what Queensland and Brisbane are doing.
No, it blows my mind. He's just on Xavier. He's one of the worst positional defenders I think I've seen in 30 years. I've just never seen someone that just seems so clueless how to defend his position. But you're right, in attack, he is just so wasted. We've seen what he can do. You've got to get the ball in his hands.
I just go, why wouldn't you play Holmes outside him? I don't know. Just a thought.
I wouldn't do it at Queensland just because of his positional, like Turbo, or they'd just have a field day. But
but we had a field day on Coalfield as well, so I thought him getting dropped was an interesting element. Back to Fifita quickly. The theory that you had up there, Rob, with the 15 on and then the 10 on after half time. What's to stop him doing the same with Tino and putting both on the bench come kickoff? Because if you want to go down that route, I think that's a better option than starting one on and one off. Bring them both on at the same time.
Yeah, well, you could do that. I think I like the idea of Tino starting, to be honest with you. You have some big bodies on the field. I mean, you look at Queensland's pack with Papali'i, Welsh, and Tino. There's some big bodies there. You know,
Arrow's playing second row. Arrow's.
Yeah. The only problem with having real big bodies on is if the game is super fast. You know, and they can be like that, as we've seen these days with the referees waving their little hand in the air and the beeper going off and everyone getting a shot of adrenaline when that happens. And it seems the more it happens, the more it happens. You know, let's go 6 again. The crowd loves it. So,
is Welsh the biggest important player to Queensland if we go off the last 2 series?
Oh, I reckon Papali is. Papali not there in game one.
But when Papali'i wasn't there.
Game 2, is that correct? Didn't play game 2.
I think did he get suspended or was he injured?
Suspended, I think. I think he played game 1, missed 2, played 3, went off in 1, and all went pear-shaped. He is the new King Wally. We can't win without him.
Or as Queenslanders like to forget from last year, Tedesco in game 3.
Yeah, true. Munster in game 2. We can go all day, if you want to go through. And at the end of the day, and I said it in the last podcast, we had Branko Lee and Edric Lee in our team.
How good.
That's all. No more questions.
How good.
How good. Do it again.
How good was that combination?
Over under 9.5 minutes for Francis Molo in game 2. I think I'm being generous.
No, I if it's 9.5, I'll take the overs. I'll take the overs.
Rob?
I'm a big fan of Francis these days. He's just signed a great new contract.
That's some good gear. That's almost Instagram worthy. That's pretty good.
Yeah. No, look, I think I agree with Matty.
Over?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going under. I reckon he'll be
under
lucky
9.5 minutes.
He'll be lucky to get on the field. Paul Green, boys, and I want to wrap it up on Queensland here. The report coming out of there was that he said himself in the press conference, I didn't do things the way I probably should have in game 1 in the preparation. I didn't have everyone fit. I was trying things. I was sort of softly walking around everybody a little bit, and I didn't impose myself on the team. Well, it took him all of about 30 seconds at the start of camp for game 2 to crush all the eggshells, because he put them through a review that apparently the players weren't happy about, which I've got no sympathy for the players whatsoever. You didn't play the game. Matty, 2-part question. Does he get past this year if they lose game 2? If they lose game 3 and it's 3-0, does he get past this year? And the second thing is, if you're hoping to play game 3, do you want to have played for the Cowboys in the last 5 years?
Yeah, good question. Thing about, I think even if they win the series, it depends on what Wayne Bennett wants to do next year. If he wants to come back and coach, Bennett's got a free pass to come back and coach Queensland whenever he wants. And I think there's a big chance that's probably what he does next year. So win, lose or draw, I think Greenie, the article in the Courier Mail yesterday, which I think was a good point, was Green is probably he's on trial here, or for the Broncos job, because with Walters on the the outer, and Ikens come into the mix again, and Iken and Green are good friends. They work together at Wynnum. Iken was part of the board that got him to the Cowboys. So there's this talk that, Green's probably next man in. But if Queensland get absolute belted 3-0, big score lines, geez, it's not a great audition heading for the Broncos job.
Matty? Rob?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with Matty here. We know that Iken and Green have a strong friendship and working relationship. I think Walters is a dead man walking, and I think he'll be lucky to last a year. I really do think he'll be lucky to last a year. I think 3 or 4 more 50-point scores and he'll be out the door quicker than a bullet out of a gun. And I don't think the likes of Gordon and the old boys are going to save him. The Broncos are too proud a club, and they've already gone through, a bit of a storm as far as one of those SHIT storms with Seabold and the way that they're going at the moment. They want to put an end to that pretty soon, I would have thought. And, I think Kevy's all but lost the room. I don't think there's a lot of belief in Kevy. And I think that they are looking for a new coach, quite obviously. Green put his hand up the first time, did he not, when they hired
He
Kevy?
did.
So,
Let me be.
It doesn't.
Can he get the job? Sorry.
Well, I was about to say, it doesn't bode well if you get pumped 3-0.
Yeah.
But you've got to look at this New South Wales side at the moment, if that happens, as a little bit like Queensland were for all those years. Obviously, I'm not trying to compare them and say they're the same as, with the likes of Thurston and Cronk and blah, blah, blah in the team, and Smith and Slater and Inglis. But they're probably growing into something like that. And with a little bit of luck, because it takes luck and timing, that could happen again. So you've got to look at how good your opposition is I guess what I'm saying. And New South Wales, especially in the first game, were very dominant. I'm not I'm not counting my chickens till they hatch, but I believe they'll win the second game. And if that happens, then I think they'll do it, at ANZ in Sydney. These guys seem to, that youthful exuberance that they've got at the moment, I think is rubbing off on a few of the older players, and there's a bit of belief floating around. But that can all end. That can all end at Suncorp. And we've seen what Queensland are like at Suncorp. They're hard to beat. So, but for the Green thing, I think Green has probably got an inside running for the job. And Matty's right. It'll depend what Bennett wants to do next year, because if Bennett wants to coach Queensland, you can bet your life on it that he will coach Queensland next year.
Yeah, just conscious of time, boys, so let's wrap it up. Angus Crichton in for, who went out again? Jake Trbojevic hurt himself, and so he's out. Wouldn't surprise me to see a late change for New South Wales. I think there's a good chance that Crichton starts on the right and then Murray goes back into the middle off the bench where he is most effective. He was good in game one, but I think that's what could happen. New South Wales won't change a whole lot. They'll stretch Queensland at every opportunity. I don't know, what's the weather supposed to be, Matty, on Sunday?
I think rain's predicted was.
Because Suncorp is a slop bucket when it's dry sometimes in the middle of winter. So, it definitely speaks back to Queensland's ability to play that sort of war in the trenches kind of approach. Boys, let's get your tips for game number 2, New South Wales with a 1-0 series lead. They can wrap it up. Will they rob Cox? He said yes, but what's the score going to be?
They'll wrap it up, 24-10.
Matty?
I'll take you through the last minute. It's 22-all.
He's gone.
Oh, that's how good it was.
Try to silence me. What's happened there?
I've got power. This is the one. This is the episode you want to watch on YouTube, everybody. Just so you know. Yeah, go mate.
22-all. Queensland in possession. About 30 out. DCE shaping for the field goal, but throws it to his left to the 18-year-old boom rookie Reece Walsh, who shapes to kick and then runs it, and he scores under the post. Queensland 28, New South Wales 22. What a great story it will be.
Yeah, shame it won't happen. New South Wales 24-12. And I don't know if it'll be that close. I didn't think game one would be very close. And I got the same feeling. I think it's the weather is the big equaliser here, as you say, getting the weather report there.
I'm just looking at my AccuWeather app here, and it's saying it's going to rain Friday, Saturday in Brisbane, but 0% chance on Sunday.
Oh, information from the north is different to the information from the south.
But
this show.
But it'll be wet.
It's going to be wet heading in. Like you said, it's not a great drying track.
No, it's not.
That's right.
There was death when I was out there in my business shoes back in the day. You obviously wear spikes when you're up there, don't you, Rob?
Yeah, I'll wear footy boots when I'm, especially if it's rained in the last day or two. Up there.
Our first try scorer, lads. First try scorer, Latrell. Matty?
I will go Andrew McCullough from dummy half. What a great story to start the game. To go with my.
If we let that happen, we're dead set Canberra Raiders. Last try scorer, you've got Reece Walsh with the fairy tale. Matty, I can see it not happening. Rob?
I'm gonna go a left of centre thing. I'm gonna go Tariq.
Tariq Sims. I'm going Josh Adokar first try scorer. I think he somehow in the last 2 games his teams have won by about 5,000 points and he hasn't scored a try. I think he rectifies that first up on Sunday night, and I've got Teddy as the last try scorer. Man of the match, boys.
For mine, Nathan Cleary.
Yep.
Queensland win. Munster's got to have a blinder, so it'll be Munster.
Even if he doesn't get involved in the match-winning try. Interesting. We're going back to the days where they picked the man of the match 20 minutes out from full time or something, are we?
He scored the 2 to get him back in the game.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's a good dream. It's a good dream you had, Matty. I like it, mate.
I've seen this. It's come to me very clearly.
Nice. Teddy, the man of the match for me. Boys, that's the episode 239. That has flown by. We were going to be doing 25 minutes. We've probably done 35, if not a bit longer. Really good to chat again here, Matty. Now, do we lock you in for a chat on Monday or not?
Oh, let's see how things pan out.
Nice.
Let's leave it tentative for this time. So
Not a whole lot of belief up there at Redcliffe, is there? There's
Oh no, I'm worried I'm going to be too busy.
Celebrating.
Yeah. I don't want to commit to something that
Is there a chance that Palaszczuk just declares Monday a public holiday if you win?
Well, geez, if we didn't get a public holiday after Game 3 last year, we're stiff. So I don't think we're going to get it now. So.
She might even open the borders. Who knows? Boys, that's episode 239. It's a pleasure having your company, lads. Origin Sunday night. There is a women's State of Origin game tonight. Queensland won last year, Matty.
Yes.
New South
and
Wales
we'll win again.
They won about the 8 before that. They got Brigginshaw at lock. I thought that was interesting. No, I'm going the Blues because, the Sky Blues, not just the Blues, but they're the Sky Blues now. So we'll see how we go. New South Wales for me, Queensland. Is that the predictions, boys?
Queensland.
I think Brigginshaw's the best female player in the game, and
she's pretty good.
And playing at that lock position, she's playing kind of like another ball player, but she's a chief ball player. But at lock, she's got she's a big bodied girl, tall and strong. She's if they can't control her, it's all over, baby. And I don't think they're going to control her. So.
Yeah. Sounds like the actual Origin game on the Sunday night.
Queensland. Yeah.
New South Wales, I think we'll do it comfortably. That's how I'm feeling anyway. Less than a minute. We'll speak to you later, everybody. Follow these guys. Their tags are down below. We'll speak to you later on Not The Footy Show.
See you, boys. Take it easy.
Thanks, lads. Thanks, Matty.
Oh, Matty's gone. Just gone.
Not The Footy Show.
Yeah, but Latrell plays in the South Sydney area.
Oh, look at this. They beat the Raiders and he puts his cup back into circulation.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
So,
what is that?
Not The Footy Show.
G'day everyone, welcome to Not The Footy Show, episode number 26. Now, it's episode 26, but episode 27, it's pretty special, isn't it, Nick?
You know it is.
So, have a look at this.
Hey everyone, Not The Footy Show here at Leichhardt Oval, Raiders versus Tigers, and we're taking a cue from the Queenslanders.
Here we are.
We're saying thanks Bellamy for
Thanks,
4
Bellamy.
years or 5 years, however many years we've lost in a row. Queenslanders do it better.
Losing count.
So we're going to ask
But
people
thanks,
during the game
thanks.
to sign this and endorse Craig Bellamy as Origin coach. Slightly factory, like that.
Slightly.
A little bit.
Actually, you know what?
Thanks, Bellamy!
Hey!
Thanks, Bellamy! Thanks, Bellamy!
Hey!
Thanks, Bellamy! Thanks, Bellamy! All right, so Not The Footy Show. Nick, mate, we've got heaps of signatures on this video. Look at this.
Look at it.
Everyone's endorsing Craig Bellamy
They
for next
love him.
year.
They love
2011, more Bellamy.
Get him back so we can keep
So,
losing.
Not The Footy Show.
It's people's escape, it's people's relaxation, and we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of
Not The Footy Show.
Birthday boy.
Pepsi.